Hi, welcome Tim Horn. I really have to update. I have to update that video. It's a little bit behind the time. Okay, so let me hear, Tim. Let me hear if I can hear you. That's the first thing I want to double
Yes,
check.
you can hear me
Okay,
now?
perfect.
Good.
Once we've got technology sorted and we are in time for Facebook so that they don't cut us off, then we can deep relax and we can jump onto our subject because this is so good. We're just gonna throw ourselves right into it, right?
That sounds wonderful. I'm looking forward to
Okay,
it.
right. Okay, Tim. So you're a hypnotherapist, but I know you because we were writing. It was also your first book, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I wrote a
Yeah,
book on parenting that used some of the
and
the techniques of hypnosis to get your children to live happier, healthier lives. Yeah.
yeah, and you know what? I think we definitely have to have another conversation about that. So we were writing our first books together,
Yeah,
and so now we are friends for life, because
absolutely.
we're more like family because that it's such a bonding experience to do that. I mean,
It
it's a
is.
huge thing to get your first book out.
It is. It's rather daunting, but if you have support around you, people doing the same thing, you don't feel like you're alone, and that gives you a sense of encouragement and the
Yeah,
ability to
I'm
go
so
forward.
thankful for it. Yeah, I'm absolutely so thankful. I'm so happy about that community.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a deal. We're definitely going to talk about those techniques for parenting because there's
Okay.
always people asking parenting
Oh,
advice.
absolutely.
Okay, so let me share. This is from our new book, Talk, Trust, and Feel, because not talking and not trusting and not feeling are our key characteristics when we grow up with a challenging childhood. And so you have experience that relates to these.
Oh, absolutely. Uh,
Carry
Absolutely. You could read through it. The fact is, all my clients who come in, they're not dealing with what's happening at the moment. They're dealing with the traumas and the events that occurred to them in the past that caused them to view life in a sort of skewed way. That prevents them from going forward to have a happier, healthier life.
Yeah, I think this is probably uh, what I was looking at when I had to read what I selected from your chapter. Let me just go check what it is but it really is this responding from when that we want to talk about. So let me go and read through this. It's a long passage because it is just so good.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. So as we start into this life, we end up relying on others to establish a baseline to view our world, I think that's with. From the moment of birth, our bodies continue to grow, adjust, and acclimate to the surroundings that are present. We are at our core self-healing, self-correcting. We are aware that when a cut occurs on the body, a scab forms to protect the area and remains until its purpose is complete and it falls away. We are not consciously aware of this process. It has been genetically imprinted and processed without need of conscious thought. We do not fight this because it is an established normal that allows for progression of a species. We do not fight the normal because it sets off no alarm bells. It becomes comfortable and ingrained. So we are talking about those scabs, are we not?
Yes, we are. But the thing is, absolutely, that's something that naturally happens. No one else is involved. But the really important section there is the fact we talk about the normal. We establish a normal for ourselves that doesn't set off the alarm bells that would cause us to take some sort of action. So if you think about it, as you grow, as you're born, you are introduced to a world you have no idea about. And the subconscious mind is there to protect you. Its overriding principles protect you. And it takes in all the information from the world around you and it tries to create a context that allows that to be rationalized when we have
Mm.
no ability to rationalize at an early level. So these early traumas can leave deep imprints on us that affect us the rest of our lives. If a client comes in, they're dealing with some sort of, you know, uh, difficulty with relationships, or they're overweight, or they have stress in their lives, this is probably created by an event from the past that they weren't able to deal with in the proper full way to release the damage that it could cause. That's a problem.
Yeah, like I have right now, I've got a homeopath who gave me some special stuff that
Ooh,
there's glass, little pieces of glass coming out of my hands
yeah.
all the time. And because I work with glass a lot. And so
Oh,
those pieces of glass have been sitting there for quite some time. I've
yeah,
been totally unaware of it. And now
yeah,
they're coming out and they're forming little scabs, those little hard scabs. And
yeah,
if that little hard scab can sit there and become very painful, and if I let it sit there, then the wound can't heal. And I think that's our subconscious lessons are just like that. That
yeah,
the scab that we form actually prevent the wound from healing properly.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a funny thing. We have this need to always correct, always correct, always correct. But sometimes that correction can cause the hole that's been built in to become even deeper.
Mm,
Uh, if we allow the natural process of healing to go along, and we realize at the end of that process we can let go of the damage that's been done, if we're capable of doing that, uh, that self-correcting aspect of our life comes in. Unfortunately, when we're young, we're not able to understand that, and all the people, all the ideas that come in, uh, they can leave that lasting damage. The example I give in a lot of books, and I probably talked to you about it before, a child is 2 or 3 years old, they fall. That self correcting nature that they have, just ingrained, will tell them to just get up, look at their hands, rub them off, and move on. But a
mm,
parent will come to them and they leave a large imprint on them. They say, Bobby, are you all right? Are you okay? That small event becomes more ingrained and it tells Bobby to look for the damage that's been done. But if a parent takes a moment and says, Bobby, that was so great how you fell down, you got up, I'm so proud of you. The child then will focus on the natural ability to overcome obstacles. That's what they'll focus on, and that will
mm.
be the path they take when these little obstacles in life come. But that small little bit of trauma a parent might have put in can cause that path to become uh, off kilter. Yeah.
Before we carry on, I just want to ask our audience if they can hear us properly. I think it's important that we just check that. I'm just going to check the comments, so if
Yeah.
somebody can just let us know if we are both nice and clear. I don't trust technology that much anymore. We've been
No,
through quite a few.
they
Thanks,
say
mate.
they say to err is human. To really screw things up, you need a computer.
Yes. Okay, thanks, Mitch. Right. So, all right. So now these scabs, they really translate into self-protection measures.
Absolutely, we are by nature self-healing and self-protecting.
Hmm.
But the way we protect ourselves is affected by the world we're introduced to. If you watch your parents as you're growing up and they're arguing, they're fighting against each other, the context is the two people that love each other the most in the world fight. And because
Hmm.
of that, you feel relationships have to be involved in that sort of pressing against each other. Uh, if your parents uh, are always critical to you, we're given exemplars from television through all the rest of these things that through all the rest of advertising and technology, that parents love you more than anything else. If a parent is mean or stern with you, that becomes your understanding of what love is, and that carries on not just from when you're children but when you're growing up. I had a client come in. By the way, I always call my clients Bob because I keep HIPAA. And I've never had a client named Bob, so I'm never breaking HIPAA when I say Bob. So I
Yes.
had a client named Bob who was having difficulty with his wife. He was very caring, very loving of her, and always giving and very compassionate, all the rest of that. And she was not able to accept that kindness. The reason was when she was younger, her parents weren't that way. Her mom and dad were fighting all the time. As she grew up, the relationships she had, the pathway was driven to relationships where she was not treated properly. Her normal was, if I'm mistreated, if there's fighting, it means that love is involved.
Hmm.
So, when she met someone who was compassionate, kind, giving to her, it was not normal. And even though it was something that should have been viewed as loving and 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 wonderful for her, she rejected it. That's the kind of scab, that's the kind of trauma that we have to go back and deal with to change our concept of what normal is.
Okay, so if you had a client named Bob,
Oh, lots of them.
and all my clients are named Bob also.
Good.
So if you had a client named Bob,
Yeah.
or a female Bob,
Sylvia.
and yes, okay, I've also mine are also all Sylvia, and there's a parent figure just missing from their life. I've just now talked to somebody on Zoom who's still searching for a dad because her mother just never told her even who her dad was. She had no information about him.
Yeah.
So, what is that possible scenario that can be going on inside their head if a father figure is missing, even if the rest of her life is beautiful?
Mm, that's a good question. Uh, we're going to attach a father figure that may not be the biological figure. You're going to find someone who will fill in that gap in your life. You know, it may be an uncle, it could be a teacher, it could be someone else, it could be a neighbor who's kind to you, and all the rest of that. We always are looking to fill in those gaps, those pieces that are missing. Um, but ultimately, it always has to start. And unfortunately, we're not able to do this at an early level. Ultimately, things have to start with the person themselves. They have got to always think of themselves as the most important person in the world.
Mm-hmm.
When they make themselves the most important person in the world, they will fight anything that could sabotage or hurt that person. Um, it
Yeah,
seems,
that's so important.
oh,
That's so important. It's such a big block.
I think it's vital. Uh, if you don't put yourself first, you allow other people to negatively affect you. And the word I say is allow. Allow. People do not have a right to negatively affect you. Eleanor Roosevelt didn't say this, but she was quoted as saying it, and it's a great quote, so I use it anyway. Um, the quote is, "No one's ever been made to feel inferior
Mm,
without their
mm,
consent." And so frequently we give our consent to allow people to negatively affect us.
mm,
We have the right not to. We have the right to claim ourselves as the most important person in the world. That doesn't mean that you're a sociopath and everyone else has to go, you know, away. It means that your happiness is something that you personally can control, and you should never abrogate that ability.
mm. Yeah, I've just done on Sunday a talk for a church group in London,
Yeah.
and when you, especially when you talk to church groups, you're always going to get the selfish question like that. It is so selfish to care for yourself, and it's a lot. There's a lot of resistance whenever we are so. When the 7-year-old is attached to not being selfish, because it's a 7-year-old who is attached to not being selfish. It's a 7-year-old who got the the message either from the example or for being praised for being a good girl or a good boy or a generous boy, or judged for wanting to hide their toys.
I'd like to talk about that. Um, there are a lot of religions, and I never necessarily pick a particular religion, but we'll talk about Christianity. Um, they asked Jesus what the greatest commandments of the world are, and he says there are two. And the commandment is first, love God above all else. The second commandment is to love your neighbor as you love yourself. What is implied in that? What is implied in that? If you don't love yourself, you cannot love your neighbor. So, in
Mm,
terms of Christianity, Christianity tells you that you must love yourself. When you're able to do that, you're able to love others. If you don't love
yes,
yourself, you're incapable of loving others. You're incapable of loving God.
it is true. You're also incapable of receiving love. If you
And
don't love
exactly,
yourself, you're incapable. You will always look for it from other people to the point of codependency, but you are not going to get it until you love yourself.
Let's talk about that 7-year-old. You tell the 7-year-old, you're a really good girl. The way the child accepts that tells you something about who they are at the core. If they say, thank you, that means a lot from you. It means a lot from you. It tells the child that they are good, they deserve to feel good about themselves, and it allows them to be more receiving of positive things in their life. Additionally, the person who gives them that compliment is being honored by you accepting it, giving it
Yeah,
value. If you say to them, "Oh, that's not true. I'm doing my best," but you're saying that that person's opinion means nothing. You're downgrading the person who's given you the compliment. There's a
yeah, it's true.
wonderful. I was at a seminar that a man named Dan LaRosa was teaching. Dan, incredible hypnotist, great person. And somebody said this quote, and I loved it. It's an old Jewish saying. It's more blessed to give than receive, but they're thrice blessed that receive graciously. If you receive that gift, you're honoring the person who gives you the gift. And that's vitally important.
Yeah, I love it. Can I ask another quickly before we get back to this? Because this is
No,
so
you may
important to
not.
get back to.
No, you can't go right ahead.
I need another technical question sorted out here. I
Sure.
want to quickly ask Linda if Linda can just comment for me. Um, because what I want to try and do is I want to try and put us on speaker, and then when we continue the conversation, I want to make sure that the audience can see us on speaker because I can only see myself. I can't see you if we're on speaker. So I just
Okay.
want to check on that so that we can continue with you on speaker view because I've never
That's
done
fine.
this on technology baby steps.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay. So Linda, you you can let me know if you when I stop talking, who's speaking. Okay. All right. So let's go back to the 7-year-old, and the
Yes.
7-year-old being praised for being a good girl or a good boy or mummy's little grown up. Um, what what I always say to people is that the positive affirmation that you are getting is way bigger than the negative. Um, it has a bigger imprint on your brain than the negative experiences.
Interesting. Interesting. Um, oh boy. I don't like to
Because we like
disagree.
we like sponges for affirmation.
I think we are. Yes, we are. But I think the negative things can take away from it. It's the ability to deal with the negative that strengthens us. This is not Pollyannish. It doesn't mean that everything in your life will be good or positive, but it's the way you view those things that determines what effect they're going to have on you. Let me give you an example. Um, we talked about the child falling down, and as they fall down, they get up. Let's talk about that situation. In that moment, there are two different possibilities that are given. The parent can create a negative imprint, or the parent can create a positive imprint.
Mm.
Um, the more a positive imprint is made, the more receptive the child will be to accepting positive praise. But if the negative comes up and the child realizes, my mother loves me and she's trying to protect me, I really appreciate that my mother loves me so much that she's trying to protect me, but I'm good. And all I'm going to take from that experience is the fact that my mother loves me. The negative things, in Greek, they call it the peripeteia, the turning around. You take the negative things and you take the lessons. And when you're able to view the lessons in a positive way, the negative imprint no longer has to have the same effect. I think um, words are words. It's the perception you give them, the power you give them, that determine the effect they'll have on you. And part of what we need to do is create the resilience in us. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Now, see, it's like this. So we can recognize trauma for trauma. But the
Yeah.
positive stuff that we've been affirmed for, we take it as identity. So we can't see that. We identify with that. And then we decide this is who I am. I am somebody who can't be selfish because I am generous. And that's why it's so hard for us to understand the difference between who we really Okay, wait. I need to. You keep on talking. I need to plug in this laptop.
Okay, I want to talk about that. Um, we can be selfish. We can be
Okay.
selfish, absolutely. But let's talk about that. We make a choice every day. We make a choice every day whether we're going to be selfish or not. And we have the ability, the choice to make the positive one. And every time you take the positive path, it reinforces it, allows you to go forward. Um, when we take the negative one, we hold on to that. What you said earlier about identity, that becomes part of our identity. Our actions, our words, our thoughts become our identity. Mark Twain said the two most important days in your life are the day you're born, and the second one is the day you understand why. When you have that why of having the happiest, healthiest life, which should be everyone's why, if your why is to live the happiest, healthiest life, it's kind of focusing. It focuses you on identifying for yourself individually what makes you happy. And when you have that laser like focus, it allows the rest of your life um, to have clarity. Unfortunately, we get confused in life. We have difficulty in our life moving toward that North Star, that thing that's going to make us happy. But the thing is, as individuals, we determine what can make us happy. Uh, in my life, spending time with my wife, my animals, my pets, whatever you want to call them, that brings me joy. And there's a reason for it. When I'm there, I feel comfortable. I feel like I can say the things that are important to me without the boundaries, without the barriers. And I know I have a safe zone there. Um,
I leave you all
I,
on your own.
I went on as long as I could. But that's the thing. I'm making my own happiness. I'm creating my own happiness for myself. And I have to understand I have that choice. I have that ability. If you tell yourself you're not in control of your life, you're giving over control to other things. You're never going to be able to control everything in your life. But if you say that you're out of control, that's the way your life will go.
Okay, I missed most of it, but I think we'll
Oh, it was
we'll catch
brilliant.
up.
Trust me.
It
Oh,
was
it was.
brilliant. I'm sure. I see all these hearts at the top there, so
Oh,
it
good.
must have been it must have been brilliant. Thank you, guys. You know I love a heart, so keep on
Thank you
going.
very much.
Right, and I love talking to you, Tim. So
Oh, I
let's go.
enjoyed it as well.
Okay, so um, now all these hearts are in front of what I'm trying to read. Uh, When a baby lets out a whimper and cries, the natural instinct of a mother moves her to that comforting act of cradling her baby in a loving manner. The need for safety is not only desired, but hardwired into our subconscious minds and become the overriding programming for the rest of our lives.
True.
And I want to talk about that overriding programming. Let's talk a little bit more about that need for safety because it ties in to our protective measures.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, Doing this quickly, the conscious mind does four things. It's analytical. This is from Jerry Kine's mind model, and I like it, so I use it. And I give him credit for it. You analyze the problem in the conscious level. The second thing is you have to rationalize the things that occur around you. Negative things happen. Okay, well, that happened because my tire went flat because I didn't take care of it. I'll be able to deal with that later. Your working memory, the people you work with, to allow you to understand uh, you understand the people and how to work with them best. The fourth part of your conscious mind is willpower. You have those negative feelings, and sometimes you're able to shove them aside for a few days. But long term change has to be made at the subconscious level, sort of the bottom of the iceberg that gives you stability. Everything that's ever occurred in your life is kept in the superconscious, in your subconscious mind. Uh, Positive, negative, it's all there. And the emotions that are involved stay there too. But habits are repeated over and over again, and they become ingrained. And the subconscious mind's overriding principles to protect you from danger, real and imagined. But it's not. It doesn't understand the nuances of life. It doesn't understand that. For example, I'll take a quick example. Smoking. You begin smoking because you're with your friends. You want to have that sense of camaraderie and friendship. Cigarettes begin to be associated with the safety of being with friends, but they're not good for you. The subconscious mind allows the smoking to continue because it thinks it has a greater safety for you, the safety of belonging to a group. It allows you to continue with negative behavior. So if you want to change your life, you have to change your mind at a subconscious level.
Mm. Okay,
That's,
so yeah, so I mean, I want to get back to this again about all the ways in which we can do it, but
yes,
because I do a lot of
yes.
cognitive ways of doing it and change your habits and change your speech because they all work, but then there's always that little bit extra, which is why I like to talk to people like you and all the other people who are taking part in this book. So um, these safety needs,
Yes.
the establishment of them. Okay, Muffin is trying to get on top of me now because I jumped up to put the plug back, and then it was my blanket and Muffin on top of me, which is why I wasn't very fast enough. So the blanket is back, Muffin is back. So here's Muffin back now. Okay, so we can carry on.
I love cats. Yes.
Muffin.
Hi. Hi.
So, so those, I mean, these are basic needs for human. It's that basic need for comfort, for touch from a mother, for bonding with a mother, and that is going to help us with our safety in the world. So, we talked about an absent father, but we haven't talked about an emotionally absent mother, and
Mm.
that what that does to our sense of safety in the world if we don't have that, if we don't have that bonding experience with our mother.
Okay, that's if you're not bonded with your mother, right? What you're doing is, as you're a child, it's very difficult to take this, and sometimes this has to be made later when your cognitive abilities have developed and you're able to make choices in your life. What you do is you see your mother as someone who loved you in the way that was best for her, that was most comfortable for her.
Mm.
You don't hate your mother. You're not angry with your mother. You realize your mother had gone through traumas in her own life that were brought into you. She has the baggage that she has to carry through her life, but you don't have to carry your mother's baggage. You can take the lessons from what happened with your mother and realize your mother did the very best she could and loved you in the way that was best for her. These things they're carried on from generation to generation. My father was a very good man. He really was. But his father was an absentee father. He left when he was 1 or 2 years old. We were talking about trying to find your father. I've been looking for my grandfather for, well, I'm what, 26? Yeah, we'll go with that. I've been looking for my grandfather for many years. I've never found him, and there's a good chance I won't. But understanding my father wasn't there, my grandfather was not there for my father, allowed me to understand some of the difficulties in my father's life and what a good man he truly was to overcome those things. So, what could have been a negative, holding the things against my father, became a positive for me to see the resilience and the ability he had to overcome the negativity that happened in his life. We have got to be able to teach that perception, the cognitive ability, the turning around, as we talked about earlier, to allow those negative events to become the lessons in our lives and to look at our mother as fully as we can, to understand she did the very best she could, and it wasn't great, but I can still love that she had was overcoming difficulties in her life, and she did the very best she could for me. And our best can be so much better because of those lessons.
Yeah, that my I didn't realize until I was 28 that my mother rejected me. I just saw exactly as you described the good part of it. She was a good person, hardworking, and she did. I mean, I knew she loved me. I just didn't feel lovable because
Ah,
she
yeah.
didn't bond with me. I didn't believe that I was lovable or acceptable because she didn't bond with me, and I didn't know that it was to do with my mother. I didn't even see that she rejected me. I was 28, and it was extremely traumatizing for me to figure out that actually my mother rejected me because I normalized it so much
Ah,
that I couldn't see it. I blamed my social anxiety on my inability to fit into the world easily, in on my father being an alcoholic. That one I could process. My mother, it wasn't on my consciousness.
Mhm.
And it is like it's you describe it. You grow up. You don't blame your parents. You have a relationship. You're trying to please them. You try to be important in their lives. You try to be
Yes.
recognized. And it's
Yes.
only when you are actually in a safer place, because 7 and 12 is not a safe enough place for you to have
No.
that ability to process these. So it's only like when I was 28, and quite accidentally, I didn't go look for it.
What you said is exactly right. But what you said was you didn't even realize your mother had done that because the normal for you was the normal that was established from birth and the way your mother
Yeah,
was dealing with things. Your mother was attempting to create stability in a world that has very little stability. If you have a parent who's an alcoholic, um, they're protecting you. And that means to shield you from other things. That shield gets created, and also the shield can between you and your mother. The way your mother, again, she had to create the life for you according to the given circumstances in the existence in a house that was lacking stability just naturally from what was going on. Your mother had to deal with it in the best way possible. That is not necessarily the best way for you to grow up. And now, at 28, you go back and you review all those things and you have a different insight, a different perception from all the great work you've done. You're incredible. You do great cognitive work with the people you have there. And that also allows you to see things in a slightly different way. But self
yeah,
examination is sometimes the hardest thing.
yeah,
Look at
yeah.
ourselves and even forgive ourselves. We we are our world's we're our own worst critic. You know, we're our own worst critic. And then we
Well,
look back. Yeah, go ahead.
even at 28, when I realized this fairly devastating um, news that my mother rejected me. I did it without tools. I didn't know what to do with it. I
Yeah.
just parked it somewhere. It remained a hurt that I didn't know, didn't have a language to address it with my mother. It was
Okay.
only once I started doing this work that I could address this with my mother in a very gentle, kind, forgiving way, and that she had the opportunity to mend our relationship. And so we had a very repaired relationship by the time she passed away, which was
Yeah.
only 6 months later. But it's for me the biggest blessing for to to know that once you start with that realization, when you start to have enough tools, you can start repairing that hole inside you, and you can also actually repair these relationships that has been very hurtful to you.
Okay. This is a I have to make general terms because it's different for absolutely everyone. But one of the things we do is forgiveness work. You have to
Mm,
forgive the people who've harmed you, and you also have to forgive yourself. You know, that forgiveness of others and self is very important because if you don't, forgiveness is not for the person being forgiven. It's for the forgiver to take away that thing that's been eating away at their happiness and their joy. Is if holding on to the negative feelings you have about your mother because she didn't bond with you, is it allowing your life to be happy and healthy? Is it
mm,
allowing you to move forward in the best way possible?
mm.
And I don't know. I would say no. I would say it's not helping you. So, with that understood, if you look at it as there's a lesson I can learn from this. My mother taught me a lesson. She taught it to me in a horrible way, but I can take the lesson, and the negativity no longer serves a purpose for me. Every action I take, every thought I have, every movement I make should be moving me toward self acceptance and happiness and joy in my life. If it doesn't, why the heck are you doing it? And that doesn't mean everything in your life is going to be fantastic. It's not. But if you look at those things, those epiphanies, those moments of realizing that your mother had rejected you, if you look at them as examples of self reflection and self understanding and growth, I'm going to take the growth. Aeschylus said, "He who learns must suffer. And even in our sleep, pain that cannot forget falls drop by drop upon the heart until in our deepest despair against our will comes wisdom through the awful grace of God." We should never be afraid of pain. We should be afraid of not learning from it and allowing it to move us forward. Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Easy to say, not easy to do.
No, it isn't. And I love doing the actual self-awareness,
Yeah,
self-mastery work at the same time with doing
yeah,
some deeper work with people like you know, and
yeah.
some definite body work because there's a lot of the stuff that we embody.
Oh, yeah.
So I like to use all these modalities. There's not just one modality for all of us,
Oh, I
but
agree.
for me, let's talk about safety needs because I'm back with a baby and because we have such big safety needs. Because I think it's important for us now to put into context when we don't grow up feeling safe, we are going to really create in ourselves in order to survive very big safety protection measures. We're going to find beliefs and outlooks and habits that are going to help us feel safer in the world and more in control in the world. Okay,
Hmm.
so now we're grown ups and we don't need them anymore, but we still believe in them 100%. This is just how it is. And now you want to talk to somebody like that now.
Okay. Oh, what you said is exactly right. We try to protect. I use the word try. I try not to use the word try, and I just use it several times. We are working for safety in our life, absolutely. And sometimes that becomes a cocoon for us. It stops us from being able to grow, right? Growth, as I said, growth includes the fact that you're not always going to be safe, but you're always going to be able to learn from the negative things that happen to you. And you get to determine who comes into your sphere. You get to determine how they can affect you. You have control of that. You have a control of those things. The safety, the safety, safety is the overriding principle of the subconscious mind, the most important thing. But growth is important as well, and we cannot stagnate. You know, a shark. If a shark just remains in the water and it doesn't swim, it dies. It has got to keep moving. We always have to be willing to move forward, even if there is a lack of safety. As long as we understand that we're able to take whatever occurs to us and use it to move forward. Um, if you date someone, I'll give you an example. Wonderful book you have about the hamster wheel. I love it. Anyway, um, when we move forward, we date someone, we are giving them the opportunity to add to our life. That's their opportunity, and they can take it or they can reject it. But that's up to them. Even in a dating relationship, putting ourselves first allows us to take the power away from them to harm us, right?
Mm, mm,
And the time will come when you say this relationship is not going to move forward, it's not going to go further. And I'm honoring you by saying, I've enjoyed what's happened, but I can let you go now because I want you to be happy, right? And in
mm.
doing that, we're protecting ourselves and protecting someone else. The safety is involved in this. I know when I'm stagnating, I know when I'm hurting, and I know I can reject the thing that's caused me to stagnate, caused me to hurt. I have that choice, I have that ability, and I'm never giving that part up.
Anytime when you are stuck and self-protecting, you are stagnating. That
Absolutely.
that's just how it is. If you are so tight on your self-protective measures, you are stuck. You're stuck. You're stagnating. So,
Absolutely.
you know, um, if you grow
Yes.
inside yourself past the 7-year-old, past the
Yeah.
12-year-old, if you grow in exactly those things which I didn't have because I didn't have that connection with my mother, that self acceptance, that knowing that I'm a lovable person.
You
You know, it's
are.
like amazing that you can't know that. It's like really amazing that you can't, that you conscious cannot into your conscious mind bring the idea that you are a lovable person, but inside you deeply feel unacceptable. And when you grow past that, when you start to grow through bringing in those actions and the behaviors that tells you that you're lovable and acceptable, then your thought pattern starts changing, and then you don't need all that safety anymore. So, I mean, I know that a big thing for you is like when you do as a hypnotherapist is that a very big thing for you is to always establish a space of safety for your client. I mean, it's always about the safety, but
Mhm.
it's also important that we know at the same time that we can cognitively start growing that muscle because it's underused, and we can do it by bringing the right actions, the right language, and the right habits in that tells us we are lovable, we're acceptable.
Mhm. It really does have to start with self.
Mm.
You've got to, you have to love yourself. You have to feel that you're worthy, right? Uh, Love, safe, secure, worthy, accepted, confident, capable. If you believe those things deep down and you understand that and you accept that, it creates a membrane of positivity around you that others can't, get into, that can't get into.
Mm. Mm.
Um, and again, if you look at everything in your life as an opportunity for you to grow and get stronger, that's the funnel you have to put things through. You don't have to wallow in the negativity. What's happened with your mother, those things. You can go back and look at them, and you can look at them as this is the reason these negative things happened. And if that's the way you look at them, that's the way they'll always be perceived. That's the way that becomes ingrained at a deep level for you. If you look back at them and say, my mother did great with the situation was there. She didn't do perfectly, but I'm really proud of her strength, and I don't have to hold on to those things. Thank you, Mom, for the positivity comes out. It's not the events in our lives, it's the way we perceive them and the way we categorize them that determines their long-term effect on us.
Yeah.
We walk frequently on quicksand when we think it's solid ground. And sometimes it's not until you're 28 that you begin to see what that quicksand really is.
Mm. Yeah, and I'll always have a big empathy for 14-year-old me, 16-year-old me. The conversation that I had with my mother was, I've long ago forgiven
Yeah.
you for everything that happened to me. But the 16-year-old was still immensely hurt and immensely lonely. And you were always the mother of me. And
Yeah.
that premise, we were able for it was she was able to understand why I was such a rebel, why I had no connection, closeness to her, why I couldn't be in the same room as her for longer than 20 minutes.
Okay.
And so it came from a place of forgiveness, but it came also from a place of understanding and having empathy with me, the 14-year-old, the 16-year-old. That's
Yeah.
so important to have that.
One of the techniques I use is um, essentially you take the personality, uh, take the person you are now, who has all this information, all this, and you go back with your subconscious mind and talk to 14-year-old, talk to 16-year-old. Give them that feeling of being loved, safe, secure, worthy, deserving, capable, accepted, all those things. Fill them with that feeling. It allows them to create the resilience in their life, even at that point, and let it to go forward.
Mm.
It's not helping. It's not helping to look back on my father and some of the things he did. It doesn't help me now. He's passed on. It doesn't help me now to look back and think of all the negativity of those things. That doesn't allow my life to go strong. What does allow my life to go forward is to look back on my father from a objective point of view, not an emotional point of view, but an objective point of view, and see all the trials he had to go through and all the ways his life and all the quicksand that was created for him as he grew, and developed a relationship with his mother that was interesting. All those things were created by his early life. And as I look back on that, it also gives me the ability to see my life in a different perspective. Just as the trials he went through made him the person he is now, the trials I've gone through have made me the person I am now. But I have the ability from, talking to people like you and others to go back and review these things, to change them, to modify them, like a director of a film, being able to cut them, change the coloring, the sound, the tone, the emotions that are involved,
Mm.
and allow them to move me in a forward direction.
Mm.
Allow, not force, because if you force something, negativity comes with it. I talk
Uh,
too much. I'm sorry.
No, 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 no. It's fascinating. You don't stop talking. I'm really good with interrupting. I have no problem with that
Good.
at all. Okay, so I'm going to ask our audience here to start giving us some comments and questions. If anybody has a particularly sticky problem that they would like advice on, if they
Oh,
want
wow.
to bring that,
Yeah.
then our audience are very welcome to to post that. In the meantime, thank you all for watching, and thank you for your hearts. Give us some more, and all right. So I don't see any questions, but I'm waiting. Sometimes people type; they don't type so fast. So we'll see if anything comes in now.
Okay.
So I want to go back to. Let me just go back because there's something else on that slide that I wanted to talk to you about.
Yes.
It is wrong to believe after a trauma has been addressed, its effects are over. That's what I really that's what I want to talk about. And you did allude to that right in the beginning, but it's still the scab and it's still there.
Let's talk about what happened with your mother.
Mm,
I forgave my mother. 16-year-old did not forgive your mother. 14-year-old did not forgive your mother. The trauma, quote unquote, had been addressed. You'd forgiven your mother, but the effects were still there. The effects were still there, kind of like a trap door that could slide out from underneath you.
mm,
We, all the events in our life have to be categorized. I like to talk about it as um, a filing cabinet of events in our life. And the filing cabinets, they take in all the events in our life, they categorize them, and eventually those things become overflowing. They have greater and greater effect.
mm,
And we have to put all the events in our life into that filing cabinet. Something could occur to you now. I know, dealt with your mom when you're 28, you're about 30 now? Yeah, right in that area. So all the events that occur to you now have got to be put into a filing cabinet. And if the filing cabinet, that drawer, is similar to one from the past, the emotions, the feelings, the sabotage that were there end up coming up again.
mm.
The sabotage, negative effects from 16 come back again because of something that has been put into that particular filing cabinet.
So what you're saying is, if I didn't feel loved by my mother, and I don't feel loved by my husband, it's all
Okay.
going into the same filing cabinet.
Yeah, well, they have to be put into a same area. Remember, the
Mm,
rational mind has got to, rationalize things. They end up being put into a certain filing cabinet so you can rationalize. Well, this is similar to what happened here. The context is created, and the negative feelings that are associated with that event, all the feelings come up with them, not just the
mm,
event, but the negative
mm,
feelings involved with
mm.
them. That's why
And of
going
course,
back, go ahead.
no, no, I don't want to interrupt you, but I was going to say that we that that also puts into context our generational trauma because we have to have an understanding of it so that
Yes,
we can put it all into context.
absolutely. Absolutely. We have the 6 year old. If the 6 year old feels they're loved, safe, and secure, and capable of dealing with things, if the
Mm,
10 year old has that feeling, if the 11, 12 year old, if the 14-year old and 16-year old are given that feeling from the adult Louise, they're able to go back and do that. It gives them the resilience that carries out through the rest of their life.
mm,
And that's what we do at the subconscious level. We go through
mm,
that filing cabinet and we see what it was really there for. Okay, this
mm,
had an impression on me. This was a trauma for me. And
mm,
every time I have a trauma, it teaches me something. And the lesson
mm.
remains, the negativity does not, you know?
Yes, yeah,
But we
yeah,
have to
that's
take
great
the lesson
because
back
we've got a choice.
to
Yeah,
previous things.
we've got a choice. Whenever there's a lesson, we can go back to the old filing cabinet, or we can then reframe it and create a new neural pathway.
Exactly. And what you said, the neural pathway, that's it. Um,
And then the more we go into the positive reframing, the more the new neural pathway gets strengthened.
the,
Okay, so we've got
the,
good
the
questions.
road more traveled by,
Yes,
the
yes,
road
yes.
more traveled by. We want to make
Yeah.
sure that that neural pathway is the one that's most traveled by. So it becomes a habit at a
Yeah.
subconscious level. It becomes a reflex.
Yeah.
A
It
reflex.
does. It becomes normal because my normal now is knowing I'm lovable.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
freaking, I'm freaking awesome. Like,
Oh, yes.
for that to be like natural, when
Yeah.
there's never been
That's
any
it.
natural in it. Okay, we've got really great questions, so let's go there.
Okay, go.
Hi, Norma. Thanks for joining, but you're going to have to go watch from the beginning because I promise you it's worth your while. This has
Thank
been
you.
such a good conversation.
Thank you.
Okay. Hi, Mitch. Okay, yes. That's a really great tool. Thanks for that.
Thank you, Mitchell.
All right, so Alex's question. So if you are in an incompatible relationship, not a finger point or
Ah,
blame, how would you perceive that? As growth? Not anyone's fault, it's just incompatible. How would you deal with that?
congratulations, you learned a lesson. You learned that there are good people in the world, but the parts just don't fit together. And to try to hold on to it, to try to force the pieces to fit together is going to ruin the whole puzzle, not just for you, but for someone else. You don't want to lead anyone else on. You want them to know that they've been a valuable part of your journey through this life, and you want to give them the opportunity to continue in their life in the best way possible, not to give them false hope for something. And that doesn't mean you can't quote unquote be, well, quote unquote, doesn't mean you can't be friends. You can't acknowledge that there was something really positive in here. But you're saying that to try to continue in this is to limit your own growth and theirs because you'd be giving them a false front. So while you can appreciate the relationship and take that lesson, you're letting them go to give them the opportunity to grow even more. And you're doing them a service, just as you're doing yourself one, because no one deserves to be limited in their happiness.
Mm.
And if it's incompatible, you're accepting a limitation on yourself and your own growth. Does that make sense?
Love that. Love that. Okay, so guys, you've got probably time for one or two more questions. It's very near to supper time here. By around supper time, I lose focus. So when it's supper time, we're going to stop.
Oh,
Okay,
that's fine.
all right, all right. So yeah, okay. So Norma, thanks. Yeah, great. Yeah, I haven't seen you for a while, so it's lovely to see you.
Thank you,
And
Norma.
Alex says thank you.
Yeah.
And Mitch is sending us some love, and please, everybody keep on
Oh,
sending some love.
thank you.
And yeah,
Sign language.
um, what if you are, what if you've been in, what if you're feeling trapped in that incompatible relationship? It's been a very long time, and you actually feel like you can't get out.
Excuse me?
That one, that if somebody says you are in an incompatible relationship, and you feel as if you are morally obliged to be in it, what's your conversation with yourself then?
Okay, you are obliged to taking care of yourself, loving yourself first. That is your obligation. If I've been married for 26 incredibly happy years. I have the world's best wife, and that's the way I perceive it. That also happens to be true. But when I was dating, if I was dating someone and we were a year or two into the relationship, if I if they were not happy in the relationship or I wasn't happy, we were giving them the impression that that relationship was solid, and we were lying to ourselves and lying to them. Uh, you have a choice. You always have a choice. And to tell yourself you can't get out of the relationship is lying to yourself. It's also lying to the other person. If you're you do not you never want to be in a relationship where you begin resenting the other person. You resent them because they are quote unquote forcing you to be in a relationship. That's not compatible with growth. It's also not compatible with them understanding their responsibility in a relationship. They could be a wonderful person, but to let them continue in a relationship with you that you know is going nowhere is telling them that there are aspects of the relationship that are compatible with you, and they're not. You're allowing them inadvertently to live in a lie about something that's incredibly important. Relationships can be modified and changed to friendships and have growth in them. But we have to establish the boundaries in our lives. And the boundaries are not there to keep people out, they're there to show people that they love you in the appropriate way. Um, I am hard of hearing. My wife knows she can't mention it to me because that's a boundary. I don't like to remember that I'm hard of hearing. And for her not mentioning that shows that she loves me enough to respect the boundary. Relationships are all about boundaries, and you've got to establish them and have immutable ones that give people the opportunity to show how much they love you, even as a friend. If you're in a relationship that's romantic and it's not serving its purpose, you're denying the full ability to be in a relationship that's romantic and fulfilling. And by saying that's not acceptable for me, I'm going to move on, you're telling yourself and the other person that you want the very best for them and for you.
You know, for me, it's something that's really important to remember is
Yes.
that we don't only live once, we live every day. And how we live every
Yes.
day, it's a limited time. How we live every day is extremely important and it's up to us. And if we don't learn to value ourselves more, I think we're back at self love. I really
Oh,
think that
absolutely.
is where we're back at because if we don't apply enough self love and we don't grow inside ourselves so that we start wanting that better life for ourselves, we're going to keep ourselves stuck in something that's not working for us. And it's not the other person keeping us stuck, it's us.
Oh,
We
yes.
one
Yeah.
keeping ourselves stuck. So it's got nothing to do with that person. We have to rather start asking ourselves, where am I not loving myself? Where inside am I not my own best friend? Where inside am I not trusting my own judgment and my own capabilities and grow those?
Yeah, the, you're absolutely right. The other person, they have got to understand what the boundaries are, what the things are that are acceptable for you.
Mm,
Self love starts with this: no one is allowed to make me feel bad. I'm not going to
mm,
give them that ability. When they start doing that, and I begin to accept it, when I begin to lower that boundary, it's telling me I'm not worthy of having the very best things in life.
mm.
And that continues and that grows. That's the germ that begins to expand.
Yeah.
That's something we've always got to be very careful about and never let that particular boundary down. That doesn't mean that we don't compromise in relationships, but we have to understand where the compromise must end because it begins to create self harm.
And if you haven't been coming from a place of worthiness, then
Yes.
you will not be communicating these expectations and these boundaries to people. And then you call yourselves incompatible. But what you don't know is that it's up to you. You you taught the person how to treat you, and then you become incompatible because you've never shown up as the full, holy, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Not fixed, repaired, grown up. The
Grown.
full,
Yeah.
the full
Evolved.
evolved, self-respecting,
Yeah.
aware, you grown up that you are. And so we may term things as incompatible because we don't let the other person see who we are becoming, who
Right.
we are as a true adult. So we can't really say it's incompatible. We've got to say it's an unevolved relationship because I have
Yeah.
continued in the way that has been established originally, and I have not been communicating about who I am now.
I have a rule with my friends. My friends can ask me for anything. If they need something, they feel free to ask me. But because we are friends, because we have that bond, I have the right to say, no, I can't do that for you without any repercussions,
Mm,
because that's what an evolved relationship is. I have the right to ask you for a favor, which is a favor, but you have the right to say no without me feeling bad about it because you're honoring me by accepting the request.
mm,
You know, that's
yeah.
an evolved relationship,
Mm,
not, superseding your will over someone else's,
mm.
but having the
And
right to ask people.
yes, and if I don't come and I do my part, and my part is to have my boundaries, to have my communication, then I am not present in my own relationship. In order for me to become present in my own relationship, I have to be that evolved person who's willing to teach the other person who I really am or who I have evolved into being. So I think, Alex, I think I answered you. I think this, I think that one is answered. That it's actually not about incompatibility.
Ooh, that's it. Oh, Alex, that can be very, very difficult. Um, Personally, I've never told anyone to get a divorce. I never would. That was, you have got to, again, the happiness has got to be for yourself. But if you're not happy in a relationship, or you're bringing not happy into a marriage. You're bringing not happy into a marriage. And you take the actions to try to make it try, not try. You take the actions to make it better. And if those don't succeed, you're saying the compatibility is not there. You begin looking at your wife, your spouse, whoever it is, you're looking at them as bringing negativity into your life. You begin to resent them. And that resentment is just festering. It'll get stronger and stronger and stronger because you feel an obligation to remain somewhere when you should have an obligation to grow and move beyond it. And you can take positive action to try to improve the relationship. Absolutely. But if there comes a time where that can't continue, don't resent the person you're married to. Allow them to move on while you move on too. Keep the best parts and move on and take the lessons that were given to you. Again, you learn from the difficulties that come up, and then you're able to modify them, learn from them, and move on. And if moving forward means moving away, so be it. But that way you won't hate or resent the person you're involved with.
So it is grow in yourself, learn to love yourself, learn to speak for yourself, learn to communicate your boundaries, reframe things so that you can find the lessons in them. And then when you are a fully self-empowered adult and you really look around and you see you've tried your best and there is still incompatibility, remember you only live one life.
That's it. And the compromise, you have to determine what compromises you're willing to make and what the immutable rules are that you're not
That's
willing
so important.
to. Very
So
important.
important. Which compromises of a price that's too dear for you to pay, and which compromises you are happy to make.
That's it. You create those immutable boundaries that cannot be broken. And that shows somebody is willing to work with you. That doesn't mean you don't compromise in relationships. You have to. Absolutely. Growth includes compromise. But even the compromises tell you how you're viewing yourself and viewing the relationship.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for your great questions. And Tim, that was amazing. And we're going to come back again and we're going to talk about hypnotherapy and the techniques and the skills from it in parenting. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to ask everybody, like always, please keep on sharing because we are people, some more hearts. Thank you, guys, for all the hearts that I can see there. That's awesome. And please share with the people that you need. Tim, can I ask you, will you go into the comments and will you go and drop your contact details and also your book, because your book is so good. If you'll drop your contact details and the link to your book in the comments on Facebook. If you go to my profile and drop it in the I don't know if you can do it.
I'm leaving my email here. I have like upcoming self-hypnosis classes and things like that. And,
awesome.
Other things if you have an interest. I have a self-hypnosis class coming in 2 weeks, and it's online.
Share it to me. Yeah, please share it to me. I'll put it on. I'll share it with my entire email list, and I'll put it here too. Also.
Okay, thank you.
Nice to see you.
Everyone who is here, thank you for honoring me with the most valuable thing you have: your time and your attention. You honor me by doing that, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tim. Okay, don't go away. I'm just going to play our song here. You know what? Let me just check. I think it's no. You know what? It's a private chat, Tim. People can't see it, so you will have to go onto my Facebook profile and put all the information in there, so they can't see it here. So you're still going to have to do the work. All right. Okay. Thank you so much. And thank you for everybody watching. If you're coming in afterwards, if you come in and do the replay, keep on commenting. We'll keep on coming back. And watch out for, you can see how awesome Tim's chapter is in our new book. I'm so proud of this book. This book is really about alternative, I don't want to call it alternative, ways of reworking your traumas and your learned behavior in a supercharged way. So there's no fluff. It's just amazing. And it's like a whole entire year of college of a mind. So please share it, and the book is on pre-order. Do not buy it. Like whoever says that, don't buy it. I'm going to drop the price for you. Okay, do not buy this book. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, and we'll see you next week. There's a comment. Let me go see before I go. All right, there. I'm just quickly going to share that. There.
Thank you,
Just
Alex.
quickly want
Thank
to
you,
share
Linda. It means a lot.
so that everybody can see
Thank
that.
you.
And then where's my finger? Okay, and wait, now that comment is not going away. All right. So much love to everyone. Thank you so much, Tim. This was awesome. Really appreciate you. And see you next time.
Bye-bye now.